The evolution of a romance writer. This is a topic of discussion for today. Hi, I am Elizabeth Griffin, the Black Romance Writer, and I once again am here to talk to you about writing and the writing process. Most of my subjects and videos will be about romance writing, but I love talking about all aspects of writing, all genres of writing. The world of writing and literature and fiction is fascinating to me, and I like to talk about as much and as many subjects and categories and areas of romance that I can. And today, I want to discuss my evolution as a writer, my process at the beginning of my writing career when I was a young girl, and where I am now as an older woman, a woman of 61 years. I noticed recently, while plotting out a story about Black hypergamy, starring a news anchor woman named Brooklyn, I noticed that first I came up with the idea, which is what I normally do, and the idea for this particular story is about a Black anchor woman who has been replaced in the news station or at her news station by an incoming management team. And she has been removed from her senior position by the company, and they have replaced her with a younger white woman. And the company, restructuring the news station and making it very clear and very plain that diversity, equity, inclusion, which is a policy that had been observed by the old news station, will no longer be applicable at this station. And that those practices and those policies of trying to include and be diverse in their hiring will no longer be the hiring criteria for the company. They will strictly and only use a person's qualifications as justification to hiring them. So that's the idea, and that's the story. It's about an anchor woman and her journey and her dealing with the new incoming president of the United States, as well as the restructuring of this particular news station. So that was my story and my idea. And I began plotting it out. However, along the way, I didn't use my normal technique of pantsing, which is how I usually write. I usually sit down at the computer or whatever device I'm using, and I would write. I would write the first thing that comes to mind. I would just create as I go, writing by the seat of my pants. And whatever the outcome is, that would be the structure or the raw material of my manuscript. Then I would obviously go back and edit it and restructure certain scenes and work on research and dialogue and all those things. However, with this particular story, I have been plotting it out, which is unusual for me. I never plot out a story, and I definitely do not do it chapter by chapter by chapter. Not really. Sometimes if I am stuck, I will pause and think about what the next couple of chapters will be, and then I would start writing and go back to pantsing. So pantsing is my style, is my technique, is what I do, with a little bit of plotting mixed in. However, I'm finding such joy and such pleasure in actually plotting out the story and seeing where it can go, where it might go, where it definitely should not go. I'm looking at all the alternatives and all the routes and paths that this particular story can take. I'm also looking at the underlying messages that are woven in that story and if there are double meanings in certain scenes. So what I'm saying is, for some reason, and I don't know if it's because I'm a seasoned writer now, I'm looking at the main story, the main telling of the story, and then those subtle messages and subtle examples that I can incorporate in my writing. So I like being a seasoned writer. I like the evolution of my writing because I can write by the seat of my pants when I feel it's necessary, but I can also take the time and plot out a story. And I find that this approach can be very useful if I decide to pitch a story to a publishing company, because usually when you do such things, you will give them an outline if they request it of your book or your book proposal. You will also be able to understand what is happening at a particular point in your book and why it's happening. And you can, I believe, create a very encouraging, motivating pitch when trying to sell your story, if that is your desire. For me, I'm an indie author, and I like that status and that position. And an indie author is someone that publishes their work independently. They are, or I am, the publishing company. What I find fascinating about this new approach to writing, plotting, is that it doesn't take away from the creativity of the storytelling. For me, normally, I feel that if I know what's going to happen, it makes the writing boring. It's not spontaneous. It's not exciting. However, I'm realizing now, when you outline it, it can still be exciting and interesting to write, because nothing is definite, nothing is set in stone. You just have a nice format or structure in which to use when you're writing your story. And I like that type of control. I like knowing the outcome of the story, where it's going to end up. I like being really thoughtful and mindful of my writing. Now, I have to say, in defense of pantsing, when I normally pants, I do go back and change things and work on things in the editing process. And for those of you who have been following me, you know that my favorite part of writing is editing, because you can take an ordinary manuscript and through editing, you can make it phenomenal. You can make it amazing. You can just restructure and reposition scenes. It's like the cutting room of an editor in a film production. You get to do all of that. And the material, the raw material that you started off with, can be changed and transformed into something phenomenal. And you can also improve on your writing, on your telling of that story through editing. So, editing is my best tool, is my favorite tool. I wanted to make this video because I just wanted to express my surprise and my shock at the fact that as I write, as I continue to write, I evolve, I change, I morph, I believe, into a better, more thoughtful writer. I also look at different aspects of storytelling, and I find that in all of this, it allows me to present, I would say, about 90% of what I've envisioned in my mind. I'm able to write it out and to convey it through my writing to my readers. So, as always, I thank you for joining me on this platform. I thank you for returning week after week, listening to me talk about writing and my love of writing. And as always, I'm wishing you love, peace, joy, and happiness as you enjoy December and the holidays. And I look forward to talking to you in the new year. Bye-bye.